start, and thereafter, people can join in.
Sure. Let's start then.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. I am Mayank Sapra. I'm an advocate practicing before the Delhi High Court mostly, and this is Arjun Natarajan. Now, as all of you are aware that this is a joint session, and we deliberately termed it as interactive session on the interplay between Epidemic Diseases and Disaster Management Act. So the story behind doing this is very it's quite coincidental and quite simple. In the informal circles, Arjun and I, we are often termed to be doing things together. Even independently, we end up doing the same things. So even as luck would have had it, Arjun and I, we both ended up working on this particular aspect independently. And once we had a conversation about it, we thought that we'll sort of share this. So at the outset, let me take this opportunity to thank Lawyers Wit, firstly for giving both Arjun and I an opportunity to express our views on this topic, and secondly, and more importantly, in these troubled times, I believe there are only few portals which have sort of taken this initiative of conducting online lectures on a regular basis, and all these have been extremely enlightening for all of us. So Arjun, let's start off with this. Now I'll just explain the structure of this entire thing. So because Arjun and I, we both have been working, right? So we had certain doubts of our own in addition to the ones that we were asked. Now we are going to keep this entire exercise extremely interactive, mostly between Arjun and myself. So, and we'll be sharing our views on the basis of that, where I ask a particular question, Arjun probably tries to answer it. I try to see if something more can be added, and vice versa. Now, Arjun, do tell us something. So, what is it that really led you to work on, something like Epidemic Diseases Act and the Disaster Management Act? What is it that has really led you to work to be working on this?
Right on the other side of Holi, I remember on the 12th of March, that was the day when the Delhi government had issued the COVID regulations, the Delhi COVID regulations under the Epidemic Diseases Act. So right after these regulations were issued, by the Delhi government, a lot of business enterprises, let it be companies or partnership firms, they got in touch with me, and they were essentially wanting to know as to what is it that is going on. However, they weren't that anxious, at least till the 22nd of March, to be precise. 22nd of March is that day when the lockdown order came to be passed by the Delhi government, announcing a lockdown for a period 23rd of March to 31st of March. Now, as soon as this development came into play on the 23rd of March, the anxiety increased, and more number of questions started coming in as to what is happening. And then onwards, the anxiety has just taken exponential proportions, especially after the central government initiated the containment measures under the Disaster Management Act. Ever since,
Yes.
So many developments have taken place that business entities have been wanting to get almost a daily status update as to what all has happened on that particular day. So that is one kind of work. And in fact, this is not just about business entities or for that purpose employees working for business entities, but it is for all of us, more so for lawyers, that it is extremely essential that we at least keep a watch on a certain website called the website of the PIB. on this website, from time to time, press releases are put in place, showing and announcing what are the measures which have been put in place. Now, whether we actually know what the measure is or not, it is important to know that such a measure has been put in place. So I would request all the viewers that they do keep a watch on the website of PIB, which would acquaint them as to what all developments have taken place. And now, once they come to know that a certain development has taken place, it is up to them. If they want to actually follow that up, go to the website of the concerned ministry, take a look, and so on and so forth.
May I just clarify one thing, Arjun?
Yeah.
I believe PIB only takes care of press releases of the central government. Is it true?
Yes, PIB takes care of press releases of the central government. Yes, you are right. However, now that the containment measures of the central government under the Disaster Management Act are in place, largely speaking, they are the ones which are relevant. However, for the purpose of Delhi at least, there is a certain website. I'll just share that screen. This is the website of health.delhigovernment.nic.in. So that website lists out the state government, at least in the context of Delhi, whatever the Delhi government has been doing. That is also something which is covered on that website. I'll just share that.
So, Arjun, I'll tell you something. See, you remember when we were talking about this, okay?
Yachi, go away from here. भैया ने सामान रखा ना यहाँ. चलो अंदर. अंदर टच नहीं करना है अभी उसको.
Arjun, could you?
Yes, I'm just muting.
Yeah. Thank you.
I was just a little scared of muting. I thought people would take offense, but then I think that not muting it would cause many others to take offense.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's about the lesser of the two evils. So I chose the lesser of the two evils.
No, but do tell me something. Now, this is very interesting, okay? Because a lot of people, you remember when we were discussing this over the phone before your article actually came out, that, a lot of people have been under this confusion, and at least from a very laymanish perspective, I mean, let alone the skills that we may have acquired by obtaining our respective degrees, but from a very laymanish perspective, people are actually under the impression that, this is strictly speaking based on the appeal that has been made by the Honorable Prime Minister, right? Now, in this entire transaction, somewhere in between, what has happened is that there is also, your article absolutely suggests that, there is a particular notification by the Delhi government, right? Now, would you be able to elaborate on this for a bit?
Yes. Let me just clarify the chronology. See, on the 12th of March, the Delhi government came up with the COVID regulations. And thereafter, on the 22nd of March, the Delhi government issued something called the lockdown order.
Yeah.
Under the COVID regulations and under the Epidemics Act. Now, the COVID regulations are also regulations which have been passed under the Epidemic Diseases Act. Now, this would be the chronology, at least for starters. You have the Epidemic Diseases Act. Under the Epidemic Diseases Act, the Delhi COVID regulations were passed. And then a lockdown order was passed on the 22nd of March, putting in place several restrictions for the purpose of Delhi. Now, the lockdown order was passed under the Delhi COVID regulations and under the Epidemic Diseases Act for the purpose of Delhi. In fact, if you take a look at the lockdown order, that lockdown order has been put in as an embedded hyperlink in part 1 of the article. If you take a look at that lockdown order, go through the entire lockdown order, it in fact expressly uses the phrase lockdown, or rather the word lockdown.
Absolutely.
So that's a lockdown by virtue of the Delhi government's lockdown order for the period 23rd of March to 31st of March. So that is one part of the story. Then after that, what happens is that there is an appeal which is made by the Honorable Prime Minister for a Janta curfew on the 22nd of March. Now, let me clarify this.
Dabba.
that this Janta curfew was an appeal made by the Honorable Prime Minister. It was not under the Epidemic Diseases Act.
Yeah.
Let me just clarify that. It was an appeal and it was followed most honorably, but it was not under the Epidemic Diseases Act. Now that's on the 22nd of March.
Yeah.
Thereafter, on the 24th of March, the Ministry of Home Affairs issues an order, which order is issued by the Ministry of Home Affairs based on another order which was issued by the National Disaster Management Authority, which is also of 24th of March. Both these orders have been
In fact,
hyperlinked
this
in
is
part
the
1.
order. Yeah. In fact, this is the order that came on all those WhatsApp groups as well.
See, a lot of
Because
orders came on.
that's how. So in fact, this is that one order which was probably made a lot more prevalent. I mean, because the other order was probably not available, or for whatever reason this happened. But you know, a lot of people got this impression that this is a purely central government move. So you know, would you be able to elaborate a little more on this aspect as to what is the actual distinction?
On the 24th of March, the National Disaster Management Authority passes an order saying that it is necessary to put in place measures under the Disaster Management Act on a pan-India basis. Based on this order passed by the National Disaster Management Authority, which mind you is an expert body, the Ministry of Home Affairs passes an order of the same date, which is the 24th of March. Now that's a one-page order. That order doesn't say that there will be a lockdown. That order only says that as a part of this order, certain guidelines are being put in place, and those guidelines will be by way of an annexure to this particular lockdown order. Now, that annexure to the lockdown order has also been hyperlinked. Now, that annexure is essentially a part and parcel of the lockdown order. It contains guidelines, but mind you, those guidelines are of a mandatory nature, because the guidelines are contained in an annexure, and the annexure is a part and parcel of the order passed on the 24th of March by the central government, to be more precise, by the Ministry of Home Affairs. Now, if you were to go through the one-page 24th of March order, as well as the annexure to it, which contains the guidelines, then it would become clear that the terminology used by the Ministry of Home Affairs in that annexure is containment measures. Now, it is very important to appreciate that what the Delhi government did under the Epidemics Act and what the central government did under the Disaster Management Act are two separate things.
Yeah.
As I said, Delhi government did whatever it did under the Epidemic Diseases Act. Central government did it under the Disaster Management Act. So the very genesis is different. Number one. Number two, if you go through the Delhi government's order of 22nd of March, the language which has been used in the order is lockdown. They do not talk of a containment. They are strictly using the terminology lockdown. Whereas if you go through the annexure to the order of 24th of March, towards the end, towards the second last and the last pages, it becomes very clear that the central government couches these measures under the phrase containment measures. Now, the statute is different, the terminology is also different, and moreover, the period is also different. Delhi government's lockdown order was just for the period 23rd of March to the 31st of March. Whereas the government's containment measures were for a period of 21 days, starting from the 25th of March till the 14th or 15th of April. Of course, we are there at the fag end. So these are two separate things. As much as I must clarify that as on date, in common parlance, the phrase that is being used is, or rather the word that is being used is lockdown. We all are saying that there is a lockdown. But strictly speaking,
effectively it is containment.
Effectively it is containment, because if you take a look at the annexure to the 24th of March Ministry of Home Affairs order, the terminology used there is containment measures.
Yeah. No, that's right. Actually, you know, I was also working on the same aspect. And, you know, during this entire time, so, you know, a few people came up to me and, you know, who had lost their jobs or at least are on the brink of losing it, right? So some very interesting queries have come up to me. You know, I have had to issue legal notices. Of course, that has only been done by way of a soft copy. The hard copy and all have not gone, of course. But then something very interesting that came up was this, that a lot of companies, in a bid to avoid this entire, they have their lawyers as well, and they've tried, they've tried to circumvent the lockdown orders and whatever additional directions that have been passed by the respective governments, especially at least in Delhi and at the center. What they've done is that they are asking a lot of people they're calling them unofficially, and then they are asking them to apply for leaves, paid, unpaid, etc., whatever. So a lot of people have approached me, to that extent, thereby asking as to what really can be done and if there is a legal measure, because they would lose out on a substantial amount because of this for no fault of theirs now. So of course I advise them on the basis of the clause 5 of the lockdown order, now, which actually takes me to a very interesting aspect that is there. In fact, in the clause 5 of the lockdown order, there is a specific term, on duty, that has been used, right? Now, on duty, of course, we can leave it to interpretation for all of us. If I'm representing the company, on duty would mean something else. If I'm representing the employee, on duty means something else, right? But what's your understanding of this particular aspect? Because I believe you've also covered it in your article.
Yes. See, I must say that there have been, of course, a slew of measures by the state government and the central government, but that apart, there has also been a slew of legal notices, because a lot of business entities are approaching this entire situation from a pragmatic point of view, in the sense that they are really not keeping this process of addressing conflicts, if not redressing or resolving, at least addressing conflicts. They are not leaving it to that period of time when normalcy is restored, because they want to focus on the business of doing business once normalcy is restored, and they want to at least take some steps in the direction of addressing conflicts by maybe sending some strongly worded correspondences, or if need be, taking it at an aggressive level by sending some legal notice to employees or maybe to contractors, etc. There is an aspect of force majeure as well. However, I shall not be dealing with it, because the force majeure aspect is extremely factual and it needs to be appreciated keeping in mind the specific contractual terms. However, if we were to speak about this strictly in the domain of law, then yes, point number 5 of the lockdown order, something which you had just indicated, it does become important. And let me just do one thing. Let me just read out what point number 5 of the lockdown order exactly says. It says that the employees of private establishments, including temporary, contractual, outsourced, etc., required to stay at home in view of this order being the lockdown order, shall be treated as on duty and be paid in full. Now, in order to make this process a little easier, let me just share that screen. Now, this is the lockdown order of 22nd of March, passed by the Delhi government. Now, let us go step by step. Let us be very systematic about this. Let us see where is the source of power as recognized at least under the order. Now, I am reading the second paragraph, that is, and whereas the government of NCT of Delhi has issued the Delhi Epidemic Diseases COVID-19 Regulations 2020 under Epidemic Diseases Act for prevention and containment of COVID-19. Now, therefore, the government, in exercise of the aforesaid powers, hereby notifies a lockdown in the whole of territorial jurisdiction of Delhi from this period to this period. So, essentially, this lockdown order has been passed by virtue of the powers derived from the COVID regulations as well as the Epidemic Diseases Act. Now, keeping in mind this, let us straight away go to point number 5. Point number 5 is the employees of private establishments including temporary, contractual, outsourced, etc., required to stay at home in view of this order shall be treated as, within double quotes, on duty and be paid in full. Now let us keep this clause in front of ourselves, and with this in front of ourselves, I'll tell you what were the kind of questions, broadly speaking. The kind of questions which I got from employers, business entities, was that by virtue of this provision, would it mean that just because somebody is staying at home on account of the lockdown order, would it automatically mean that he is on duty and he should be paid? Now, they all are people of business. They are really not trained in law. So their question was focused on the word automaticness, if I could use that word. That is, there is a lockdown order in place because of which employees cannot come to office. They have to stay at home. Now, because they are staying at home on account of the lockdown order, does that mean automatically that they are in duty? And if they are in duty, they have to be paid. Now, this was broadly the nature of the question. Now, if I were to cast this question, keeping in mind principles of law, then essentially their question is whether there is some sort of a deeming fiction over here. That is, by virtue of the lockdown order, when private employees of private establishments are stuck at home, then would it be the case that they are deemed to be on duty and then they shall be paid in full because they are deemed to be on duty? If I were to legally recast, or rather in legal words, if I were to recast, then this is what it emerges as. Their question essentially is whether there is a deeming fiction. Now, if I were to interpret point number 5 of the lockdown order, the terminology consciously avoids using the word deemed. Now, let us for a moment presume that this clause is worded as under. Let me just read that presumed version. The employees of private establishments, including ABCD, required to stay at home in view of this order shall be deemed to be on duty and be paid in full. It could have been worded that way. However, it has not been worded that way. So consciously, it has not been worded keeping in mind a deeming fiction. So when law is not creating a deeming fiction, we cannot attribute a deeming fiction to it. Now, if we were to not give it a deeming fiction, then how do we interpret this? Required to stay at home, the employees of private establishments, ABCD, etc., required to stay at home in view of this order, shall be treated as on duty, which is the normal course of things. I'll treat you as though you are on duty, which means I will give you work, you will do the work, and if your work is good enough, you shall be paid in full. Now, that doesn't mean that if the work is not good enough, his salary will be deducted that month. Instead of X rupees, he'll be given maybe, say, X minus 5,000 rupees. No, that's not what I'm saying. What probably is the consequence is that there will be some financial implication, which could reflect either upon his incentives or his bonuses or his increments or whatever. Essentially, it is not a deeming fiction, and that you will be treated as though you are on duty, which means you will be made to do everything which you are made to do in office. The only difference is you will be working from home, and for this you shall be paid in full, of course, subject to the satisfaction of the employer. That is an interpretation which comes out of it.
You know, Arjun, I believe this is one aspect that I, for one, disagree with you on. I'll tell you my reasons as well, right? Because, because it is, because this is an order and you can call it a benevolent order. So I would not want to give it a very strict interpretation. As a matter of fact, I would want to give it an expansive interpretation and as much as possible, right? Now, there are two aspects. Now, this is, of course, my interpretation. One, that it includes all kinds of employees, temporary, contractual, outsourced, etc., right? And the second part is be paid in full, right? So to give it a very hyper technical interpretation, I for one would feel that probably that may not be that from an employee's point of view, of course, right? I for one feel that because of the fact that it is also in the nature of a benevolent statute and it is emanating out of one, you would at some point have to give it the most expansive interpretation possible. But anyway, that's of course my view on this. See, my understanding is that a lot of law students are also there with us today, right? And mostly, when we go through this entire lockdown order and the containment order, we are unable to understand that what does it really fall under. Okay, so my exact question to you is this, that when we talk about this particular clause 5, right, irrespective of your interpretation or my interpretation, from a strictly academic point of view, do you find this to be intra vires the COVID regulations or the Epidemic Act, or for that matter both of them?
Yes.
So yeah,
I got the question. See, let us examine this point, the private employee payment point, which is point number 5 of the lockdown order.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind the COVID regulations as well as keeping in mind the Epidemic Diseases Act. Because let us not call it an academic exercise, because God forbid if this were to get challenged sometime in the future when things limp back to normalcy, then it would be argued keeping in view various principles of administrative law and other aspects of public law. So it takes us back to the basics, that is the principles involving interpretation of delegated legislations. Now there are three things over here, or rather there are three layers to it. You have the Epidemic Diseases Act, which is a parent statute. Under the Epidemic Diseases Act, the Delhi COVID regulations have been passed in exercise of regulation making power of the state government under the Epidemic Diseases Act. And under those COVID regulations, the lockdown order has been passed. Now we have to essentially test point number 5 on the anvil of the lockdown, on the anvil of the Delhi COVID regulations, as well as on the anvil of the Epidemic Diseases Act. Now, if we were to test it on the anvil of the Delhi COVID regulations, then if you go through Delhi COVID regulations, there is nothing in it to countenance this aspect in the lockdown order as to paying persons in full because they are on duty, because they are at home. So there is nothing in the COVID regulations to really countenance this aspect. So strictly speaking, point number 5 seems as though it is ultra vires the Delhi COVID regulations. Remember, point number 5 is in an order. The order has been passed under the regulations. So the order has to ultra vires the regulations. It's very basic. Now, there is nothing in the regulations which supports this kind of a benevolent provisions to be made, unfortunately. However, there is one more aspect to the matter. That is, the Delhi COVID regulations doesn't provide for a lockdown in the first place. Okay, it doesn't provide for shutting down of business entities, temporarily, of course. It doesn't provide for people remaining at home when the offices are shut down. So therefore, when it does not at all deal with shutting down and people staying at home, there is no occasion for it to deal with they being paid or not paid when they are staying at home, right? So therefore, another way of looking at it is that, yes, ideally speaking, the order should be intra vires the regulations. But in this situation, the anvil to test the validity of the order, or rather point number 5 of the order, is not the regulations. Instead, it is the Epidemic Diseases Act. That is one way, another way of looking at it. Now, if we were to test the vires, or rather the validity of point number 5 on the anvil of the Epidemic Diseases Act, then it results in one more interesting scenario. Let me just demonstrate that by taking you to section 2 of the Epidemic Diseases Act. I'll just share that screen. Section 2 of the Epidemic Diseases Act. Now, as the page opens, let me just read out in essence. I won't read out the statute as a whole. It might get a little runny. So I'll just read out in essence, what is it that section 2 does. Now, this provision creates the power to take special measures and prescribe regulations as to dangerous epidemic diseases. And under this, the state government is empowered to do 3 things essentially. First is to take suitable measures. Second is to issue temporary regulations by way of a public notice. And third is to determine in what manner and by whom any expenses incurred, including compensation, shall be defrayed. Now, these are the aspects which are covered by section 2. I'm just sharing the screen which will show section 2 as it is. This is the Epidemic Diseases Act 1897. Let us straight away go to section 2. The heading of section 2 is power to take special measures and prescribe regulations as to dangerous epidemic disease. When at any time the state government is satisfied that the state or any part thereof is visited by or threatened with an outbreak of any dangerous epidemic disease, the state government, if it thinks that the ordinary provisions of the law for the time being in force are insufficient for the purpose, may take or require or empower any person to take such measures and, by public notice, prescribe such temporary regulations to be observed by the public or by any person or class of persons as it shall deem necessary to prevent the outbreak of such disease or the spread thereof, and may determine in what manner and by whom any expenses incurred, including compensation, if any, shall be defrayed. Now, the last part of section 2, which is after the last comma on the second last line, that is, and may determine in what manner and by whom any expenses incurred, including compensation, if any, shall be defrayed. Now, let us focus on this word defrayed. The word used over here is defrayed as opposed to disbursed. Now, by its very nature, a defrayment refers to a reimbursement.
That's right.
So if you have incurred some expenses, then I defray those expenses. And if you even otherwise see this part of section 2, it is and may determine in what manner and by whom any expenses incurred, including compensation, if any, shall be defrayed. So if we were to test point number 5 on the anvil of the Act, that is the Epidemic Diseases Act, and try to see if section 2 comes to the aid of point number 5, then unfortunately it doesn't look as though section 2 would come to the aid of point number 5, because when as an employee I am staying at home, a private employee of a private establishment, I am staying at home, and when I am staying at home, I shall be treated as on duty and I shall be paid. Now that payment is not in the nature of a defrayment. That is one. Secondly, I don't think it can be said that the money which the private employer pays me when I am sitting at home because of the lockdown, that defrayment of that can be claimed by that private employer from the government. Even that doesn't seem to be the interpretation which is flowing from section 2, because in the context of section 2, the kind of expenses which are being contemplated are in the nature of expenses which the government incurs, not any other person.
That's right.
So say for example, for sanitation or for putting in place some awareness measures as regards an epidemic, the government is incurring some expenditure. Then who shall defray those expenses and in what manner? That is the scope of section 2.
Right.
So arguing in favor of point number 5, yes, the COVID regulations might not be the right anvil to test the validity of point number 5. Instead, it would be the Epidemic Diseases Act. Even if I were to proceed on that premise, on a reading of point number 5 of the Epidemic Diseases Act, it does not appear as though this aspect of section 2 would come to the aid of point number 5. So that's where the legal position stands. However, this discussion largely might have become, or rather this conundrum largely might have become sort of infructuous at this point in time, because at the end of the day, the lockdown order was for the period 23rd of March to 31st of March. Okay.
I was just about to say that.
Exactly. So in terms of point number, Sorry, what are you saying?
No. I was just saying that, one of the reasons why I started off this question by saying that it's academic because, because it is based on an order that has already elapsed for the time being.
Right.
Of course, notwithstanding the fact that it was always meant to be a temporary order, which is
Correct.
what the act
Correct.
per se empowers you to do so. So you see, the state government is not empowered to make any permanent regulations. They
Correct.
have to be temporary in nature.
Exactly. Now there is one aspect. Let me just clarify that for the benefit of the audience. That is, if you take a look at the Delhi COVID regulations, I think it's regulation 19. It makes it very clear that Delhi COVID regulations come into force with immediate effect. That is with effect from 12th of March, and they shall be valid for a period of 1 year. So COVID regulations are valid for 1 year. However, we are talking about the lockdown order. The lockdown order's validity is only till 31st of March. So as much as the lockdown order has really lapsed post 31st of March, the Delhi COVID regulations are still in place. Now, especially with we at the, now that we are standing at the fag end of 21 days, we will have to see whether the Delhi government goes on to do anything else under the COVID regulations or not. So we'll have to really wait and watch and see. But the COVID regulations are still in place. It's the lockdown order which has lapsed.
No, but do tell us something, Arjun. See, as much as we understand that the lockdown order has lapsed, correct, and it is essentially the containment order which is in exercise at this point in time.
Right.
But does it create any sort of incongruence? Because I'm very sure that, see, my understanding is this, and that when I was reading up on this, I clearly felt that, of course, both the governments are doing their individual exercises, right? The effect might have coincided with each other, but then it does not take away the fact that, they have been doing their individual exercises.
Yes.
So in this process, I think it is only natural that some incongruence may have come up.
Yes, I follow. See, I must point this out that just like in Delhi, there were, or rather, there are the Delhi COVID regulations which are there in place.
Yes.
I must point out that several other state governments came up with their respective COVID regulations under the Epidemic Diseases Act. And in fact, while examining and comparing COVID regulations passed by various states, I noticed one very interesting aspect. That is the COVID regulations which were issued by the state of Telangana were definitely under the Epidemic Diseases Act, but they also invoke some provisions of the Disaster Management Act.
Yeah.
Of course, that is really not the scope of this discussion as to invocation of Disaster Management Act by the state of Telangana. I shall not digress, but I must say that that was an interesting observation. That is, state of Telangana invoked Disaster Management Act at the time of making of its COVID regulations. So essentially what I'm trying to emphasize is that just like Delhi has its COVID regulations, similarly, various states put in place their respective COVID regulations. And Lakshadweep, which is a union territory, even Lakshadweep came up with its own COVID regulations. And if you take a look at the National Disaster Management Authority's order of 24th of March, this aspect of various states coming up with their respective COVID regulations was something which was noticed by the NDMA in its 24th of March order. I'm just sharing that screen.
Right.
Now, this is NDMA's order of 24th of March 2020. Let us very systematically read it. It's just a one-page order. Whereas the NDMA is satisfied that the country is threatened by the spread of COVID-19, which has been declared as a pandemic by the WHO, and that it is necessary to take effective measures to prevent its spread across the country and for mitigation of the threatening disaster situation. Second para is important. And whereas experts, keeping in view the global experiences of countries which have been successful in containing the spread of COVID-19, unlike some others where thousands of people died, have recommended that effective measures for social distancing should be taken to contain the spread of this pandemic. So social distancing is being recommended by an expert authority. That's why it's important. Now, paragraph number 3. And whereas there is a need for, I'm emphasizing on this, consistency in the application and implementation of various measures across the country, while ensuring maintenance of essential services and supplies, including health infrastructure. So the NDMA appreciated this fact that there is a need to put in place consistency in the application and implementation of various measures across the country. So the question that you asked regarding incongruency, various states having their own respective COVID regulations, this was something which the NDMA did take note of. And let us read the last para as well of this authority for the sake of this order for the sake of continuity, because we have to read MHA's containment order of 24th of March in the context of NDMA's this order. The last para. Now, therefore, in exercise of the powers under section 62I of the Disaster Management Act 2005, the NDMA has decided to direct ministries/departments of Government of India, state governments and state authorities to take measures for ensuring social distancing so as to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in the country. Necessary guidelines in this regard shall be issued immediately under section 10(2)L of the Disaster Management Act by the National Executive Committee. These measures shall be in force for a period of 21 days with effect from 25th of March 2020. Now this says that there will be guidelines which will be contained in an annexure. Now I'm just stopping this share and I will be sharing the annexure. Now this was also something which gave rise to a couple of questions, because the NDMA order says that there are some guidelines which are contained in an annexure. So one of the questions which was asked by various business entities was that, are these mandatory? Because they are at the end of the day just guidelines. Now there is no two ways about it. Of course, these are mandatory because the annexure which contains the guidelines is a part and parcel of the 24th of March MHA order. Let me just open that annexure. And I'll share that screen as well. Annexure to Ministry of Home Affairs order number such and such dated 24th of March. Guidelines on the measures to be taken by ministries/departments of governments of India, state, union territory, such and such for containment of COVID-19 epidemic in the country. And then various things are put in place. What will remain open, what will remain closed, what are the exceptions, all those things are contained over here. And this goes on, and the emphasis on this terminology of containment measures. If you take a look at point number 13 at page number 2, wherever exceptions to above containment measures have been allowed, the organization/employers must ensure necessary precautions against COVID-19 virus as well as social distance measures as advised by the health department from time to time in order to implement these containment measures in point number 14. In point number 15, and then so on and so forth. So why I am emphasizing on this is to demonstrate that the terminology which was used in the MHA's 24th of March order, to be more precise in the annexure to it which contains the guidelines, is containment measures. So essentially the 24th of March MHA order could be called a containment order, not a lockdown order, as much as on date today in common parlance we all have been calling it lockdown order. At this, once again, at this juncture, I must emphasize one more thing, that is this particular annexure of 24th of March has undergone numerous modifications. It underwent an amendment on a modification on the 25th of March, and then one on the 27th of March, and then on the 3rd of April, on the 4th of April, and I think the last modification was on the 10th of April. It's very important that you all take a look at the website of MHA, in which a consolidated version of all these amendments has been uploaded. Let me just show that page so that you all could take a look at it. I'll just stop this share and So if you go to what's new, you have consolidated guidelines. However, I must also point out one more thing, that is there was a fifth addendum, which was the last amendment, or rather the last modifications which was made, which I think was on the 9th or on the 10th of April. Yeah, this is of the 10th of April. I must point out that the consolidated guidelines has not yet incorporated this particular modification of 10th of April. Because if you take a look at the last uploaded modified annexure, it only talks about modifications dated 24th of March, 25th of March, 27th of March, 2nd April, and 3rd April. So the modification carried out on the last one, 10th of April, has not yet been incorporated. But of course, you can take a look at this and separately read the 10th April modification. So you'll get a hang of how at this point in time this annexure stands. So all the containment measures are essentially contained in this. So because of various states coming up with their respective COVID regulations, some inconsistency, some incongruency was observed, which was taken note of by the NDMA, and accordingly the MHA passes the containment order of 24th of March along with a detailed annexure which contains the guidelines. Those guidelines are mandatory because they are a part of the order. They are not to be seen in isolation. These guidelines are a part of an order. So essentially the guidelines are also an order. And those guidelines have undergone umpteen number of amendments. 25th of March, 27th of March, 3rd of April, 4th of April, and then on the 10th of April. So all those amendments are there on the website. I just showed that screen. So I would request all of you, at least the ones with a legal background, to keep a watch on the website of MHA and to be aware of what are the amendments which are being carried out.
So interestingly, you remember when we were having a conversation about this a few days back, we had spoken about this guideline being in essence being an order, right? And thereafter, we had also started discussing about the COVID regulations. We had gone back to the COVID regulations and we had spoken that, when in fact, there is a specific mention of, of this being a direction so far as Delhi COVID regulations are concerned, right? So, would you care to elaborate that, what is really the effect of regulation 15 per se, which, by the way, just one second, I'll just open it up.
Do you have regulation 15 handy with you?
Yes, I do. I'm just opening it.
Yeah, excellent.
So yeah, it says that all advisories issued / to be issued by the government of India. Arjun, if you could share it for the benefit of everyone else.
Yes. So these are the Delhi COVID regulations which have been issued under the Epidemic Diseases Act. And straight away, let's go to regulation 15. Regulation 15. Now, let's pay attention to the way regulation 15 has been worded. All advisories issued / to be issued by the government of India on COVID-19 will ipso facto be treated as directions under this act in NCT of Delhi. Now, let us go step by step. First of all, it refers to all advisories. So emphasis on the word advisories and then emphasis on the word all. So whenever a statutory provision begins with the word all, then it has to naturally be given an expansive interpretation. All advisories not just the ones which have been issued, but even contemplated ones, anticipated ones, which will be issued. By whom? By the government of India. On what? On COVID-19. Will, ipso facto, means automatically, be treated as directions under this act. Now, this act is essentially the Epidemic Diseases Act in NCT of Delhi. So what flows from Regulation 15 is that as long as the central government issues any advisory in the future or something which it has already issued, and as long as such an advisory is in respect of COVID-19, then merely by virtue of the fact that it has been issued or it will be issued, merely by virtue of that fact, it will automatically be treated as a direction under the Epidemic Diseases Act for the purpose of NCT of Delhi. Now that's what flows out of Regulation 15 of COVID regulation. Now there are a couple of problems which arise when we actually interpret this, because it is this provision which actually brings this interplay between what the state government has done and what the central government has done. Because what flows from Regulation 15 is that any and every advisory which has been issued or which will be issued shall be deemed to be a part of, or rather shall be deemed to be directions, or will ipso facto be treated as directions under Epidemic Diseases Act. Now the reason why this provision is problematic is because if you take a look at the powers of the central government under the Epidemic Diseases Act, the powers of the central government under the Epidemic Diseases Act, which is contained in section 2A of the Epidemic Diseases Act, is confined to only ships and vessels, not to anything else. So when the central government's powers under section 2A of Epidemic Diseases Act is only to the extent of ships and vessels, it can't be said that anything and everything which the central government does or will be doing shall be ipso facto be treated as a part of Epidemic Diseases Act. In fact, if we see it from that point of view, Regulation 15 is actually broadening and widening the scope of Epidemic Diseases Act. So to that extent, Regulation 15 looks as though it is ultra vires the Epidemic Diseases Act. However, really that is not something which should shock us, because if Regulation 15 were to be struck down, even then COVID regulations as a whole will stand. That is, Regulation 15 can be severed and COVID regulations otherwise can be saved, number one. Number two, instead of being struck down, if Regulation 15 were to be read down to the extent of all aspects other than ships and vessels, which is the domain of central government under the Epidemic Diseases Act, even then the purpose is served. So what I mean to say is that this Regulation 15 is problematic. However, it is not so fatal that if this goes away, then the COVID regulations as a whole won't stand. But this Regulation 15 actually demonstrates how this interplay really is playing out in real time. And at this juncture, I would like to give an example as to this aspect of management of dead bodies of COVID-19 patients. Now, why this is important is because the manner in which the Delhi government has dealt with this aspect of the matter, that is management of dead bodies of COVID-19 patients, could give an insight into how Delhi government is interpreting Regulation 15 of COVID regulations. And that takes us to few instruments. In fact, the central government had issued on the 15th of March guidelines on dead body management. These are available on the website of Health and Family Welfare. So there are 4 instruments which could give us an idea of how Delhi government is interpreting Regulation 15. And that sequence actually begins with dead body management guidelines of 15th of March, which were issued by the central government. At this point in time, I must indicate to you that these were issued before the containment measures were put in place, because the containment measures came into place on the 24th of March, whereas these dead body guidelines are of the 15th of March. Now, subsequently, what happens is that on the 19th of March, the Delhi government issues a letter with which it simply plainly goes on to adopt these guidelines. So Delhi government is not putting in place its own guidelines. It is simply going on to adopt those guidelines which the central government has put in place. And thereafter, the Delhi government comes up with another order on the 25th of March. And then it comes up with, and this 25th of March order is also in respect of dead bodies of COVID-19 patients. And then Delhi government comes up with another order on the 3rd of April, which is also on dead body management. Now, to put it very briefly, how this could offer a peek into how Delhi government is approaching Regulation 15 is that if you take a look at the central government's dead body guidelines, which were issued back in the day, I think on the 15th of March, they only deal with deaths taking place in hospitals. They do not even talk of other kind of deaths of COVID-19 patients. However, which is the guideline which Delhi government went on to adopt by way of its 19th of March letter. However, on the 25th of March, when Delhi government came up with its dead body management order, which was in the nature of an order, it was not just confined to hospital deaths, it was confined to deaths outside of hospitals as well. So that's an important aspect. And let me very quickly show you a tabular depiction which would make this discussion more precise. In fact, this tabular depiction is contained in part 2 of the article which I had written. So if you were to compare the 25th of March order passed by the Delhi government in relation to dead body management and the 3rd of April, then they are same in all respects, barring these 2 or 3 respects. First is, for insofar as 25th of March is concerned, for deaths occurred outside healthcare facilities, district magistrate shall immediately inform the Rajiv Gandhi Super Speciality Hospital or Lok Nayak Hospital. So 25th of March, these were the only 2 designated COVID-19 hospitals. Whereas 3rd of April, there is a modification and it says shall immediately inform the nearest COVID-19 designated hospital, because there were more number of hospitals as opposed to just 2. Now, insofar as serial number 2 is concerned, there is no such corresponding provision in the 25th of March order, but the 3rd of April order incorporates this aspect. That is, for deaths occurred outside healthcare facilities, if an unclaimed body is found at a public place, Delhi police will handle the body in accordance with central government's guidelines in this regard and bring it to the nearest COVID-19 hospital. So let us remember one aspect, that is the Delhi police comes under the central government. So if there is an unclaimed dead body, then handing it over, till that stage, Delhi police will handle the dead body keeping in mind the central government's guidelines, which are of 15th of March. But once the body is handed over, once it is handed over, after it being handed over, it will be managed by the Delhi government, keeping in mind the Delhi government's dead body management order of 3rd of April. So this could give a sneak peek as regards how Delhi government is approaching Regulation 15, which says that advisories by the central government shall ipso facto be treated as directions under the Epidemic Diseases Act. So insofar as Delhi police's role is concerned, they are saying that the governing law insofar as Delhi police is concerned will be the central government guidelines on dead body management. But once it comes to a Delhi hospital, a Delhi government hospital, thereafter it shall be in terms of Delhi government's dead body management order of 3rd of April. So this interplay becomes quite evident insofar as this aspect of dead body management is concerned. In addition to this, I must point out one more aspect, that is insofar as insurance is concerned. So Delhi government has recently passed an order saying that any healthcare or support staff professional, let it be a doctor, a nurse, a sweeper, a safai karamchari, if such a person unfortunately passes away in the process of handling or treating a COVID-19 patient, then irrespective of whether such a person is temporary, permanent, public servant, private servant, irrespective of all these considerations, on an ex gratia basis, insurance amount of rupees 1 crore shall be paid to the family of such a person. So this also goes on to demonstrate how Regulation 15 is being interpreted by the Delhi government, because parallelly I must point out that the central government has also put in place several insurance related measures, all those things which have been mentioned in the status report which was filed on, I think, the 31st of March in the Supreme Court. So these aspects go on to show, the dead body management aspect and the insurance aspect go on to show Delhi government's approach as to Regulation 15 of the COVID regulation.
In fact, Arjun, this also perhaps raises a very interesting question, because the central government, your article clearly suggests that, the central government had submitted a status report on the 31st of March, right? Whereby they had said that it may be in the best interests of everybody that, even when we issue an advisory, it may as well be complied by the respective states. And, a lot of times, on the 24th of March and even subsequently, the Secretary of Ministry of Home Affairs had issued various circulars, right?
Yes.
Whereby he had requested to comply with he had requested various states and other secretaries, right, to comply with all the directions in letter and spirit, which is also, by the way, something that has been done by the Supreme Court in its order.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that kind of course, the Supreme Court order is quite clear, right? When it says that no, it may be complied with in letter and spirit. But then evidently the Delhi government seems to be going a step ahead, right?
See, if the Delhi government is going a step ahead, then it is in fact complying with it in spirit. In spirit,
absolutely. That's what.
Going ahead is not absolutely.
But absolutely. But of course, I'm just saying from an academic perspective, right? It's obviously going a step ahead and doing it, but then we'll have to see if it creates an issue at a later point. And we would have to see how the Delhi government, of course, by now we have an idea as to how the Delhi government is approaching it. But like you had aptly pointed out, that we will all have to wait for 10 a.m. tomorrow. We've been given to understand that the Honorable Prime Minister will be addressing the nation, and there is a possibility of some information as regards extension of a lockdown, and we'll achieve more clarity on this, and then maybe we can discuss that aspect, pursuant to that. If there is any clarification that is issued, then maybe we can once again get back and try and analyze those new clarifications that have come up.
Right. In fact, we will have to really wait and watch and see as to if at all there is an extension of the present measures which are in place.
That's right. Absolutely.
Lockdown, the containment
Absolutely.
Then to what extent it is done by the central government, what is the role of state governments, whether there is going to be an interplay. So a lot of questions will arise. It's good that we are having this discussion towards the fag end of the 21 days. So this has become like a revision of whatever has happened during these 21 days. And then we will have to really see as to how...
Of course, for the benefit of everybody who's watching this is not planned. This is absolutely coincidental that it is happening at the fag end. So
in fact, we really wish we had done it a little earlier, because a lot of confusion has been there as to whether this is a lockdown, whether this is a containment, whether this is a Janta curfew, or whether in Delhi what is going on is still the lockdown, because Delhi has a peculiarity. It's not like all other states. So there is another doubt as to whether the containment order of 24th of March is even applying in Delhi. So rather we would have
that applies to other UTs as well. That applies to. You gave that Lakshadweep example. So honestly, I had not come across that. Right. I'm very happy that you brought it up. Because I was obviously under the impression that because Lakshadweep is a UT, it would essentially be governed by the containment order that has been issued by the central government.
It
Right.
is, but then before the containment order, Lakshadweep had its own COVID regulations. Now I'll have to check
Right.
whether pursuant to the COVID regulations, Lakshadweep even issued a similar lockdown order or not. I'll have to check that aspect. But
Right.
yes,
Right.
Lakshadweep has its own COVID regulations. And in fact, like we have
Right.
regulation 15 in the Delhi COVID regulations, Lakshadweep COVID regulations have an identical provision. So that's also an interesting aspect.
No, but what is also a little more interesting, Arjun, is that when we go through the Epidemic Diseases Act, and of course I will not stretch it because I believe we are already past our time, right? But it only gives powers to a state, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Epidemic Diseases Act, Section 2 gives powers only to the state. If you take a look at Section 2, capital A.
That's right. Now, Arjun, to that extent, for a UT to come up with its own COVID regulations, right, is slightly alarming, because then if it is governed by central government, then there may as well be a common COVID regulation for everybody, no, for UTs, etc., etc. Right? Instead of the UT coming out with its own COVID regulations, which also I believe raises interesting aspects.
It does raise, but then see, that's again in the domain of subjectivity as to what is the advisability of doing that or not. But remaining in the realm of objectivity, it is a fact that Lakshadweep issued its own COVID regulations. Now, yes, we will have to examine as to how far it is really sustainable, etc. But the fact of the matter is that Lakshadweep, like any other state, did put in place its own COVID regulations. Now, whether it put in place a lockdown pursuant to the COVID regulations of Lakshadweep, that aspect I haven't checked. I just, of course, Mayank kept me so engaged that I sort of didn't bother about others who have been asking some questions. Yeah, there have been a slew of questions. Let me just go through those. Ms. Krishna Kumari, I have a question. Ultimately, what are you telling your employee clients? Is the Delhi government order to be adhered with respect to payment of wages, or is it open to a challenge before the courts? See, insofar as point number 5 of the lockdown order is concerned, one way to look at it is that whether it is valid or invalid. Another way to look at it is, let us keep aside validity. Ultimately, it is just for a period of 7 days. Okay, it's just about the salary for the month of March, right? In fact, in a lot of organizations, from an accounts point of view, the salary might have even been prepared. So the advice that has been given to employers is that don't be so stingy. These are difficult times for all of us. Don't be so stingy that you pay them only for 21 days. So the advice that has been given, generally at least, is that insofar as those 7 days is concerned, please pay the entire salary. But of course, the salary aspect is really not that bothering. In fact, some more questions arose as to whether that point number 5 in the lockdown order continues all throughout as well or not. Of course, that doesn't continue all throughout, because the lockdown order, which contains point number 5, that order itself has lapsed on the 31st of March. So yes, generally speaking, the advice has been that just pay off the salary. Don't be so stingy. It is just about 1 week. Just pay it off. And there was one other person who had raised his or her hand. Now I don't know.
Employer clients or
Mayank, what are you saying? Yeah, the question was employer clients. And are there any other questions that anybody else would like to ask? And we have 15 participants right now.
Okay.
Of course, we'll keep this as an ongoing process. In the chat box, I am just keying in my email address and email address of Mr. Mayank. So you both, as in anyone is free to get in touch with us, send us emails. Let us keep this as an ongoing process. 1 second. I think there is some problem with the internet.
Arjun, I believe Mr. S.B. Singh has a question.
Yeah.
Is there any conflict between the Disaster Management Act and the Epidemic Diseases Act?
As things stand now, it doesn't appear that there is any conflict between the two, because they both are operating in two completely separate domains. But we will have to see how that conflict comes into play vis-a-vis individual aspects. For example, the aspect of insurance, of Delhi government going on to give insurance amount of rupees 1 crore, which Delhi government is doing by way of an order passed under the Epidemic Diseases Act. Now, whether that is countenanced by the Disaster Management Act or not. So that is one aspect where we will have to see if there is a conflict. Another is regarding dead body, regarding the issue of dead body management, but the manner in which Delhi government has dealt with the dead body management aspect, it has ensured that no conflict is created. At least that's how it appears to me, because insofar as handling of the body by Delhi police is concerned, they have made it very clear that Delhi police, while handling a dead body of a COVID-19 patient, will go ahead with the central government guidelines. Only when it comes to a Delhi government hospital, it is only at that point in time that the 25th, the April, the 3rd or 4th of April, Delhi government's order will take care of this aspect. So regarding the issue of a conflict between these two statutes, generally speaking, there is no conflict. But regarding individual aspects, one needs to see whether a conflict is really playing out.
Just one more aspect that I can perhaps add on to what Arjun has just said is this, that while of course there is no conflict at all, and by and large, from of course a perusal of the two acts, it does not seem that there is any conflict. Even in the actions up till now, I believe the state governments and the central government have been working in tandem with each other, of course, with the slight modifications here and there. But from up till now, at least it is fair to suggest that very little scope of conflict has arisen between the decisions, that have been taken by the state government and the central government till now. I believe he has a counter question, Arjun.
With all orders issued by state governments be subsumed by orders issued by central government? Will all orders issued by state governments be subsumed by orders issued by central government? If we were to address this question keeping in mind Regulation 15, it would be the other way around, because Regulation 15 of the Delhi rules, of the Delhi COVID regulations, which has and there are equivalent provisions in other COVID regulations as well. It says that everything that is done by the central government shall subsume in what the state government has done. So if you were to look at it through the lens of Regulation 15, it would be the reverse, because then the central government's advisories would sort of subsume into state government's measures under the Epidemic Diseases Act. But once again, this will have to be examined from the point of view of that specific order that we are referring to. For example, if we were to take a look at the dead body management aspect, it looks as though there is a conflict. But then if we go on to see the last order passed by Delhi government regarding dead body management, they make it very clear that so long as Delhi police is handling the dead body, they will be governed by the central government's guidelines. Once it is out of Delhi police and it comes to a hospital, it will be governed in terms of the Delhi government's dead body management order. So this aspect of subsuming will have to be seen from the point of view of individual orders. Any other question? There is one Mr. or Miss 1+7 who is raising a hand. Now, yes, 1+7. I'm not getting to see the name. 1+7. Please go ahead and spell out your question. Any further questions by anybody? Either to me or to Mayank or Inter se, however.
May I just tell all of you that even if you are unable to think of questions right now, there is no difficulty, because we've already shared our email addresses, and we'll be happy to address each and every question, even if it is mailed to us at a later point. There is no, often it so happens that when we listen to a lecture, we are probably not able to get the right questions or even doubts at that point in time. So to enable you to go through this lecture once again, we had switched on the recording, etc. That we'll be sharing with the lawyers with, right? And that can be accessed. I believe Arjun, Mr. S.B. Singh once again has a question, which is
orders issued under Disaster Management Act. I mean, orders issued under Disaster Management Act.
No. It is the next one, that I think lockdown or containment order can be issued only under the Disaster Management Act.
Disaster Management Act does provide for containment.
Right, yeah.
It does provide for containment. However, if you go through of course, the Epidemic Diseases Act neither provides for a lockdown or for a containment. It only provides vaguely for measures to control the spread of the epidemic. However, Disaster Management Act does refer to the concept of containment, but the concept of a lockdown has not been used. And a lot of persons, especially individuals, have been asking this question to me by way of legal advice, in the sense that is there a concept of a lockdown in Indian law? If there is no concept of a lockdown in Indian law, then how is this lockdown order being passed? Now, plain and simple, as on date, what is in place is not the lockdown order. What is in place is the containment order, which has been passed under the Disaster Management Act. And of course, under Disaster Management Act, there are powers to pass a containment order. But otherwise, Indian law really doesn't refer to any concept of a lockdown order as much as it has been passed. But strictly speaking, what has been passed under the Disaster Management Act is not a lockdown order. It is a containment order, as much as casually everybody is calling it a lockdown. I think
in case if there are no questions, we'll just end the session for today.
We'll end it now. And in fact, even I would want to extend my thanks to an informal group of Delhi High Court practitioners called Lawyers With, which has done a very commendable activity, or rather a very commendable initiative of carrying out lectures by various practitioners. So in these times, this is actually resulting in a lot of learning for practitioners, because we have practitioners who have been doing webinars from the past maybe a week or a couple of days. Almost daily there have been webinars by various practitioners. All thanks to Lawyers With for doing this. And on the other side of this pandemic, on the other side of this quarantine, when we all are in the domain of normalcy, even at that point in time, this initiative should ideally continue, and there should be lectures. Of course, there will be time constraints, but if not daily, at least once a week or maybe twice or thrice a month, I'm sure that this is something which should be done. And I would also like to thank my good friend Mr. Tarveen Singh Nanda, a young advocate who has taken painstaking efforts to put in place these various online lectures. He has been very patient in coordinating with the both of us, including this aspect of the technological barrier as to whether it should be a Facebook Live or it should be a Zoom call or it should be a Google Hangout. But then, yes, all in all, it has come out well. We'll have to play the record and see what the record says. So, and of course, we will once again come back on this side of the pandemic to see how the extension of the lockdown pans out. Thank you so much, and of course, thanks to my good friend Mayank as well for bearing with me online as well as offline.
Thank you, everybody. Hopefully, we'll see you soon. Have a good day.
Okay. Thank you.
Arjun, before you disconnect, just do one thing. Mr. Anuj Gupta has requested that the containment order and the relevant documents. So Anuj, there is an article. There are 2 links that are available on the chat box. Please feel free to open them, right? And it has all the hyperlinks as well as all the relevant documents. In fact, whatever has been discussed up till now is available in the form of a hyperlink. Yes, thank you. Arjun, I believe we'll end the session now.
Yes, let's just sign out.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
So much. Yes.